Hey, and welcome to the Meditations and Musings podcast. I'm Elena. I'm a mama, I'm a wife, and I'm the founder of the Divine Self-Care Circle membership and the Virtual Retreat Academy. I don't believe that you have to sacrifice your body, your health, or your family in order to create true abundance and prosperity. I believe in living based on the divine feminine metrics of success, and these include pleasure, play, ease, grace, and a slower pace. Each week, I'll bring you 1 to 2 new episodes. One of these will be a guided meditation that you don't have to do on the meditation pillow, and the other will be a conversation to help you access your inner wisdom, to ignite abundance, and inspire others to do the same. I invite you to join me on this journey back to the magic of a divinely aligned and well cared for you. And now, join me for today's episode. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Meditations and Musings. The title of today's episode is Deep Roots, 3 Ways to Stay in Grace During the Storm. So first of all, I want to just bring light to the word grace, as it is one of my divine feminine metrics of success. And success means how you define success, not how I define success. So that's the first step, is to really take a moment and define success for yourself. So grace is one of the feminine metrics of success, along with pleasure, play, ease, a slower pace, and celebration and integration, which are in my writings, but not in the intro of this podcast, but I wanted to bring them to light as well. So deep roots, 3 ways to stay in grace during the storm. So because I'm a lover of words and communication is very important to me, one of the things that is important is to first define, what does it mean to stay in grace? And what does it mean to have deep roots? And what does it mean to be in a storm? So let me unpack that for you first. So first of all, staying in grace. I actually really like the word grace, but I didn't always know what it meant. A few years back, I had a client who's a very spiritual leader, and she does these beautiful readings for people. And she told me that my word for the next coming year was going to be grace. And I love the word. It sounds beautiful, but I really didn't know what it meant. And the more I started exploring it through my teachers like Carolyn Mace, and just doing other reading about it, I realized that for me, what grace had come to mean was this real trust in the process of unfolding. It was having a trust in that the universe and divine has my back. It is this understanding that everything is working for me, even when it doesn't always seem like it is, that you can be stuck in a moment of doubt or fear or stuckness in general, and that you trust that this is a phase, there is a cycle, and by grace, you're going to be moved through it and made better in some way for it. So that's what I define as grace. I'm sure I could talk more about it, and I know that you have your own way of describing grace. Maybe it's a word that you have used in ways before, or is something that's present in your life, or maybe it's a new word for you, as it was for me when I embraced it in my own life a few years back. Now, the next element that I want to unpack is having deep roots. This is really a metaphor. If you think about the visual perception of having deep roots, when you see a tree that's been building its roots for a long time, its root system not only goes wide, but deep. Not all trees have deep roots, and those are the ones that fall over in the wind. We have a lot of trees where I live that are these birch trees. They're beautiful. They're white bark, and they get these gorgeous patterns on them, and you'll see them a lot in paintings of outdoors scenes, and they're beautiful. They're really amazing, but they don't have very deep roots, so they fall over often. And so that's a tree that does not have deep roots that is able to be pushed over during a time of storm, right? Literal windstorm. Now there's other trees here. We have like the cedars, and the cedars are thick and wide and very, very tall. And their wood is revered for its power, its strength. In fact, our house is built of cedar and it smells amazing. But the cedar trees, have very deep and wide roots. And so they don't fall over easily. In fact, the top might fall over a little bit during a storm, but the structure, the foundation of the tree itself goes very, very deep. And that's something that's cultivated over time, having the ability to survive and pass through many storms and reach for the sun and reach wide with its branches. In fact, sage branches or leaves are used to clear space, because it's another element of cedar sage, is that it clears space and it gives you the element of strengthening and rooting as well. So having deep roots to me as a metaphor in my life is having the ability to be rooted into what I know is true about myself, about my family, about what's most important. Like my priorities are straight. I know that the most important things in my life are my family, my friends, my own wellness. And as long as those are nurtured, that my roots go very deep. And so whatever storm comes, whatever arguments or, even natural disasters, I can lean into the innermost truth of my life, which is having my family, my friends, and my own wellness as a priority. And when I see those being very shallow and not connected in a deep way, I know that it's time to make some changes. So for example, last year I traveled a lot, and I love to travel, but it also took me away from my family quite a bit. So this year I pulled back on some of the trips that weren't essential, on the ones that didn't light me up. I simply said no to things that were not crucial or exciting or beneficial to my life in some way. So those are adjustments we make as we go, and we learn by making mistakes. So sometimes we do things that we thought were going to be great, but they didn't turn out so great. And next time we can make a decision whether we want to adjust or pivot or do them again, because we have that choice, right? So deep roots are the sense of feeling grounded in your life, and even when things happen around you, or even to you, or to those you love, you can get rooted in what you know is true and is most important for you. Now, the storm is another element that I'd like to unpack before we go into the 3 ways to stay in grace during the storm. The storm is going to be different for everyone. And for some people, they get disrupted very easily. Maybe it's some simple confrontation or a situation at work or an argument with a friend, and all of a sudden their entire life is absolutely disrupted. It doesn't make it any less real. I just want to bring people to the understanding. I want to really invite you to consider that sometimes making a mountain out of a molehill is just that. It's just out of proportion. And I want to show you 3 ways to help you move through and to get a different perspective. And to understand that sometimes those arguments, they're definitely frustrating in the moment, and they're calling on you to examine something perhaps, but in the long run, they are not what's most important. Now, there's many, many levels of storm, right? And I'm not here to judge a big storm versus a small storm in your life. Everyone's life is totally different. And part of being alive is sort of inviting the storm in, right? It's the weather. It's like anything else. I live in a place with 4 seasons. There are places in the world that have mostly summer all year long, but even in relation to weather, there are still changes, there are still shifts. And so you just know that, there's going to be a change, there's going to be a shift, there's going to be some rain, there's going to be some snow, metaphorically. And so in your life, a storm could be represented by whether it's something more serious like divorce or death or illness. Those are the big changes that invite people to really illuminate more divine truth of their life. I would say it's important to do this before the big storms hit, so that when they do, or if they do, that you are so much more prepared. So there's this understanding that We don't have to wait for a massive tragedy or trauma to happen in order to get our priorities straight and to decide that we can get rooted in our own lives as preparation for life. And sometimes, to be quite honest, storms are phenomenal opportunities, things that will uproot things in your life. It could be a huge opportunity. It could be a new job that's being offered to you somewhere. It could be getting fired but starting your new business. There's so many ways that storms can happen, but they're actually not negative. They're just things that uproot, that shift the leaves, that bring the winds of change. And the way you respond to that storm is going to define the outcome. It's going to define the level of grace that you have. It's going to define whether you stay rooted or you fall over in the winds of change. And honestly, change is probably one of the, most scariest things for people, but it's actually one of the most consistent things that we know are going to happen. And sometimes we expect the change. Sometimes, like we know, if you're going to have a child, of course, that brings a storm of all kinds of new things, new schedules, sleeping less, sleeping more, just all kinds of changes that happen physically in your life and emotionally in your life when you have one of the big changes that happen in life: death, divorce, baby, moving, new job. Those are the big ones, right? But your day-to-day life also has storms in it. And we get to decide how big those storms get or whether they are just a blip on our radar. Sometimes people take one little confrontation during the day or one, someone cut me off in traffic and it ruins the rest of your day. Or someone, posted something negative on Facebook and all of a sudden you're down this rabbit hole of news and conspiracy and negativity. And not that you don't ever address it, but that you are allowing it to be a storm in your life that knocks you over. So in this vein of understanding what deep roots are, what grace is, and what the storm is, I want to share with you 3 ways that you can stay rooted in grace during the storm, whatever that happens to be. So the first way is self-care. So those of you who have known me through my self-care lens, I'm a self-care coach, and I have my Divine Self-Care Circle, which is my yearly program where I teach every element of self-care, including intuition and daily practice and relationships and sexuality and how to have self-care in life, business, and the bedroom. And the amazing thing about self-care as a daily practice is that it truly prepares you for success, failure, highs and lows, and all the storms, every level and in between, whether it's a hailstorm or whether it's a quick thunderstorm or whether it's an ongoing weather pattern shift, right? Self-care prepares you. It's like an access point to the ease that comes with knowing that you are well, that you are grounded in your body, that you feel good in your body, that you are able to handle things as they come. There's a real confidence that comes with knowing that you are well cared for, well guided and protected. And self-care is not just the pedicures. It's not just the getting your hair done and massages, while those are amazing and I definitely put those on my calendar. Self-care is more of a spiritual connection to something greater than yourself. It's that daily practice of reconnecting into your own inner voice, of guidance from above and all around you. It's tuning into that stillness that so many of us are missing in our lives. And if you don't have a spiritual self-care practice, then I invite you to definitely head over to grab my 3-step magic morning practice where I guide you in creating your own. I will share the link with you towards the end, but if you want to jot it down, just head on over to elenalipson.com/gift. And this daily practice is one of the most profound shifts that I have made in my life over the last 10 years. And it shifts, the practice itself shifts based on my season, based on the weather outside, based on my own cycles as a woman, as a mother, as a wife. But it's consistent that I do a practice, something that connects me to my mind, to my body, and to divine guidance. And through this practice, I'm able to navigate the storm. And the storms do come. They always come, whether it's job changes or changes in financial foundations in your own life or family, whether it's family visiting or leaving, whether it's the car battery dying, whatever happens in that day-to-day life, I am able to be present for it and to react in a way that I am proud of with grace. So self-care practices is the first way to stay rooted deeply in grace during the storm. The second way to stay rooted and have deep roots in grace during the storm is connection. Connection to real people in our lives around us. Now, I love the internet. It is where I have found my husband, my house, my jobs. I find my clients online. It's a wellspring of magic and possibility and opportunity for me in so many ways, and has been in my career. I found speaking gigs. I found friends. Just all kinds of beautiful things. And there is a real world outside my front door, and yours too. And so the connection is all about prioritizing people in your life starting now. When the storm hits, and whether it's a physical storm, like there's been, massive fires and flooding and actual storms and hurricanes coming through, I'm sure you've heard about them in the news. This is the time where people really get pulled together and they start helping each other. But the most important thing is, don't wait for the storm to hit in order to go and knock on your neighbor's door and ask if there's anything that you can do for them or that you need help with. The real magic is in ongoing connection with those people in your life, whether they're your neighbors or whether they are people you work with, or people in your overall community that you can connect with, whether it's a reading group or a women's group or a mother's group or some sort of work organization. There's so many options that you can connect with. It just takes getting out of your comfort zone. And through meeting new people, through having conversations, you start to really expand your zone of possibility. So these connections take an ongoing effort. And again, yes, we can wait until the storm hits and then go ask for help. But hey, who knows if it's going to be there at that point, right? We don't want to be those fair weather friends that are only connected with someone when things are good. We want to also have ongoing, long-lasting connections with people, and this takes effort. I know you have a lot going on in your life because I do too. So what I try to do for myself is I will put it on my to-do list to make sure, hey, message so-and-so, schedule a real phone call. Hey, email so-and-so, make sure we get coffee on Friday on the schedule. Life changes, schedules change, but there's always time, even if it's just a simple, come on over, let's have some tea. You don't have to do a whole, spread of food if you don't want to. It could just be really simple, just a sliced apple, some tea, and conversation. And you would be surprised how fulfilling that is, both as someone who attends that and someone who opens your door to invite a friend in to do that. You could even go for a walk by the water or in the forest or wherever in the city and have a conversation and really, really connect and hug someone. And if you do this on an ongoing basis, I guarantee your life is going to feel more full, more rich. If you would think about right now, is there a friend or two who you haven't connected with in a while? Maybe you had friends when you had kids who were younger and then you were connected with some parents, but you haven't spoken with them for a while, or it's just a friend who you say hi to. Maybe it's an acquaintance that you'd like to get to know better. Maybe there's a meeting you can attend to make some new friends or rekindle old friends that have just gotten too busy to connect. Be that person that takes the first step. Be the one that makes that phone call and says, hey, it's been too long. Let's get together. Ongoing connections are even more powerful. If you have like the first, Sunday of each month, you have brunch together, you make pancakes together, you get your families together for a taco night, whatever it is. Those ongoing connections are the real fruit of life. It's the harvesting of ongoing friendships that feel so phenomenally delicious. So those connections are the second way to stay rooted deeply in grace during the storms. And the third way is to actively look for lessons in the storm. The question that I like to ask myself when I'm going through something tough is, what is this situation asking me to examine, reprioritize, or delete, right? So when there's something going on in your life that feels uneasy, uncomfortable, you're maybe feeling like you're unsteady because new things are happening in your life. Well, guess what? New things are always going to be happening in your life. It's the question of, am I going to learn something from this, or am I going to let this go through as if it was just another blip on the drama radar and make it another reason to not do or be what I want to be? So the next time there is a storm happening, and again, a storm could be something really positive happening to you, like a new opportunity, a new risk that you're wanting to take, and you are feeling stuck in it, or it's feeling like it's happening to you and not for you. This is the perfect time to pause, grab your journal, grab a pen, and ask yourself what the lesson in the storm is by asking yourself, what is the situation asking me to examine, reprioritize, or delete? Perhaps your priorities have been a little off. Perhaps you haven't spent time with friends or family or on self-care and wellness for yourself. Perhaps it's time that you stop watching so much TV and instead go out for a walk. Or maybe it's a health scare. And again, don't wait for health scares to make changes in your life, right? That's so much of what I hear. So much of the conversation that I have with the women who are coming into my Divine Self-Care Circle is all about hitting overwhelm, hitting exhaustion, hitting a state of, I just can't take another minute of this. Something has to change. And so this is the perfect description of a storm that's asking you to examine what needs to be examined overall, what needs to be reprioritized, and is there something that needs to be deleted? Sometimes there's just something on your to-do list that you are just done with. Maybe it's volunteering somewhere you've been volunteering for a long time that you just need a break from. Maybe it's saying yes to things that you no longer want to say yes to. Maybe it's saying no to something that is coming at you that you are just not wanting to do, and giving yourself permission to not do it is your way of staying deeply rooted in your metric of grace, right? So let's review. 3 ways to stay deeply rooted in grace during the storm. The first one is self-care, because self-care, especially spiritual self-care, prepares you for success, for failure, and the highs and the lows and the wind and the hail and the snow of storms, right? The second one is connection. Make connection an ongoing effort. Prioritize people in your life starting now. Don't wait. This is the best gift you can give yourself. And number 3 is look for the lesson in the storm. Specifically, what is it asking me to examine, reprioritize, or delete? So that is my musing for you today. I hope you have taken some notes. And honestly, if it's done something for you in terms of inspiration, an aha moment, a moment of your own grace, please share it with a friend. I'd love it if you subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss a meditation or a musing. And I'd love it if you share this link with a friend and tag me on Facebook or Instagram. I'd love for you to take a screenshot of this and hashtag meditations and musings. And of course, tag me so I can see that you are listening. I'd love to get some feedback, and any reviews you leave, I would be deeply and gratefully honored. Thank you so much for being with me here today. I hope your day is magical. I hope it has been, and it will continue to be magical. I will see you for the next episode of Meditations and Musings. Thank you so much for listening and learning about the new Divine Self-Care way of being in your life, business, and the bedroom based on the divine feminine metrics of success: pleasure, play, ease, grace, and a slower pace. If you're ready to bust the myth of overwhelm and tap into an inspired start to each day, I've put together a free video series for you to help you start each day with energy, inspiration, and ignite that inner pilot light which attracts joy, magic, and synchronicity. You can access my 3-step magic morning practice to help you ignite your inner light and attract the abundance that you're craving. Head on over to elenalipson.com/gift. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would so love if you share it with a friend, a sister, a mother, a daughter, and please leave a review. That is how the magic starts to ripple out. Here's wishing you a day full of beauty, magic, and divine self-care. I'll see you next time at the Meditations and Musings podcast.